Hi there, Titans, and welcome back to another Titan Academy video. Today we'll be talking about picklist or selection input fields in Titan Web. First, we'll cover some of the fields that are Boolean fields, such as checkbox and switch. Then we'll show you the difference between static picklist options and dynamic picklist options. We'll show you how you can cache the metadata for those picklists so that your load time will be faster. We'll show you how you can filter some of the items in your pick list based on record types in Salesforce. We'll show you how you can set up dependent pick lists using your dependent pick lists in Salesforce. We will show you how you can populate options in your pick list with records from Salesforce instead of with pick lists from Salesforce, how you can bring distinct options into your pick lists, and finally, just some interactivity, how you can set value, clear the items, or activate items in your pick lists. Let's get started. So the first thing we want to look at are just these two fields right over here, the switch field and checkbox field. And what's important to note about them is that they are Boolean values. So if, for example, we turn on the switcher field, we can see here that our checkbox field, which we did not tick, is false, and our switcher field is true. And so you can push these directly to, let's say, checkboxes in Salesforce. Just note that the values behind the scenes for these two field types are Boolean true, false. Now with a checkbox field, we can actually expand this to have multiple values instead of just a single value and make it go from being a true, false to having actual items like a pick list. All right. The next thing that we want to look at is the difference between static and dynamic values. Now, all of these options, except for switcher field, have the ability to either be static or dynamic. So we can provide static values, or we can actually sync these values from Salesforce. So for example, I could bring in account and the SLA of my account, which is a pick list I have in my Salesforce. And if I preview this, I will see all of the options under my checkboxes here. Now, let's head over to see what happened when I set that up. Automatically, once I make a dynamic pick list in that fashion, a get will be created automatically that's triggered on load of my project. I don't have control over when this is triggered. It's just when my project loads. And it's essentially creating this pick list for me. And I want to just point to a couple of important things in the advanced category here. First of all, we can translate these pick lists to another language, and we'll show this in another video. But today we want to focus on the fact that we can cache the pick list metadata. And this really speeds up the loading process so that instead of it loading each time and us bringing in the metadata each time anew, you're able to actually cache this metadata on our side so that you're getting the pick list much more quickly. You can also do record type filtering, and this will allow you to filter the amount or the items that are in your pick list on the Salesforce side based on record type, and then you would select the record type here. You can populate the record type in some variable and then decide which pick list items to display based on the record type that I put here. So if in Salesforce you only allow certain items for a particular record type, we would only display those items. All right. Now, the next thing I want to show is a dependent pick list. And to show that, I'm actually just going to grab two new pick lists. We'll just do it with dropdown just because it's often the easiest to see. And we'll do it with a typical one, which is country state pick lists. And so I'm going to set this up for dynamic values, but of course it can be based on any dependency that you have between pick lists in Salesforce. So let's just do account here, and we'll do country for this one, country code. And oops, let's do it like this. So this is our country. And here is our state. Let's map this one with dynamic values. We'll do account, and we want state, billing state, code. Great. And this is because I'm using country state pick lists in Salesforce, this dependency is default, but you could have your own custom dependencies in Salesforce, and it would work the same way. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to my child pick list. I'm going to head over to interactivity. I'm going to head over to dependent pick lists, and it will have me select the parent that is basically my control. So I'm going to select here country as my parent. And now, if I save and preview this, you'll notice if I look at state, I have no options until I select a country. And once I select a country, such as United States, it's only going to show me the states from the United States. If I select a different country, I'm not going to have state options until I find a country that does have state options and matches my dependency. Okay. Let's get rid of these. The next thing I want to show is how we can populate Picklist with, instead of Picklist items from Salesforce, with just records from Salesforce. So for example, I'm going to set this as dynamic, but I'm not going to actually sync from Salesforce. I'm not going to actually provide any sync for Salesforce values here. Instead, I've already set this up, but in the interest of time, but I'm going to run a get. I'm running a get from account, and I'm bringing in just 10 accounts. Won't worry about the condition right now. We'll focus on the mapping. And notice I'm mapping to my drop-down field an account ID as the value. That's what I want in the background. And you can choose anything you want to be the value, but oftentimes it makes sense to have the records ID here. And I'm going to map the name of the record to the label. And this will just bring me 10 accounts. So let's take a look at that. So I'll save and I'll preview. And I'm going to run my get by clicking this button, and now I've got a bunch of accounts from Salesforce right here. Great. Now, the other thing I want to show is how we can actually get distinct options. So I can bring in a bunch of records, but what happens if I have duplicate records here that are coming to my pick list? So for example, in this case, I'm running a get from contact, and I'm getting all contacts that accounts IDs are not empty. Okay, so I just want to basically bring in here all accounts that have contacts, really. That's what my goal is here. And the way I'm doing it is I'm just saying, first I'll bring in all the contacts whose account ID is not empty. And then I'm going to map the account ID lookup field to the value here. And I'm actually going to set reference and bring in the account name from that contact into the label here. And look how that looks now before we do a distinct option. So we're just going to run this get to bring in the accounts which have contacts. And again, this is really a get from contacts, just bringing details from the parent account. And notice that I'm getting a lot of duplicate values here. Okay, I have all of these duplicate accounts, and that's because I just brought in various contacts and they share accounts. So I want to now only bring in distinct accounts. In order to do that, I can change my interactivity on my pick list to only bring distinct options and not bring me any duplicates at all. And now if I run this get, again, it's going to query those contacts and bring all their accounts, but it will only show me the accounts that are distinct. So I no longer have duplicate values here. The last thing I want to show is just a bit of interactivity. There are a lot of options here. I just want to show the most common ones. So we have set value. Okay, I can set value to a particular pick list. For example, here I have a dynamic pick list that is bringing me SLA. So I'm going to do set value. And I will set value to my checkbox field. And I'm just going to set a static value. You can also do set value from or set a custom value, as long as this actually matches one of the values of my pick list. Okay, and you can see that this populates my checkbox just like that. All right, now the next thing that I want to do is clear items. So this is good for multi-pick lists, for example. And I might want to clear out all of the items from a particular list. So for example, my multi-pick list here, I want to clear out its items. So I have this option here to clear items, which I've already set up. And you'll see that if I select multiple items here and then click clear, it's going to clear out my items. The final one that I want to show today is activate. And my activate action is just to select a specific item in a pick list. And this only will work for static pick lists where you'll be able to see the items. Because for example, if I look at my drop down, this is a dynamic pick list. And so I don't know the items ahead of time. They're coming dynamically. So I can't do this. But in this case, with a radio field, this is a great use case for it. I can activate a particular item. And if I preview this, you'll see this will activate item 2 on my radio button, just like that. So that's how it's done. You have a lot of options with these drop-down fields, a lot of power that comes with them, and that's how it's done.